Hey Kotliners, I hope that everybody was on time to finish the lunch, but if not, no worries. Since it's an online conference, you won't bother your neighbors anyway. I'm Yevhenii, mobile engineer at 360 Learning. I'm programming for both Android and iOS, so naturally I'm interested in sharing some common stuff between them. In this lightning talk, I will make a quick introduction to Kotlin multi-platform and SQLDelight, and show you a few examples of migrating a database from popular mobile database management and object relational mapping solutions to SQLDelight with a sample app publicly available on GitHub. So, for those who are tired to write code twice, SQLDelight is an amazing production-ready solution which can be easily used in Kotlin multi-platform projects, started from scratch. But what about mature projects, which are already using other database solutions with important users' data? We will see examples of migrating from SQLite, Room, and Realm. First, let's make sure that everybody is on the same page, and we are starting from the Kotlin multi-platform, which is a technology for sharing the common code between different platforms. It has been developed by JetBrains and now passed to alpha stage. Some companies, including 360 Learning, are already using it in production because it reduces time spent writing and maintaining the same code for different operating systems, while retaining the flexibility and benefits of native programming. Shortly, you are writing the common code in Kotlin, which is then compiled to native binaries and shared to each supported platform. This common code may include everything up to the presentation level. SQLDelight is an open-source multi-platform database management system, developed and supported by Cache App, and currently available for Android, iOS, JS, and native desktop applications. It generates type-safe Kotlin APIs from SQL statements by using Gradle plugin, so you have compile time checks, IDEA completion, and refactoring capabilities. But wait, what do I mean when I'm saying SQL statements? Actually, these are slightly changed all good SQL, which you write in .sq files. Then, Gradle plugin checks them during the compilation and generates Kotlin wrappers, which you can use directly in your code. In this example, we have a create table statement, which describes how the dbbook table should look like. It has 4 non-optional fields, one of which is a primary key. After that, we have 4 SQL operations, with names to be used in generated Kotlin APIs. These are simple operations, but you can also use all advanced features of SQL, like indexes, joins, unions, and so on. And here, you can see the generated database Kotlin wrapper, which is still super readable and can be easily debugged if needed. Driver represents a handy abstraction over the platform-specific implementation of SQL wrapper and shipped for each platform separately. Its usage doesn't differ a lot from what you would write yourself to access a database. Talk would be cheap without a sample app, which demonstrates that everything I'm talking about can actually be done. So here is it, Emoji Books app, which allows you to manage the list of your favorite books by assigning an emoji, title, and author to each book. We have all typical CRUD, create, read, update, delete operations in the app, which is perfect for our purposes. All the source code can be found on GitHub by link you see on the slide. In the repository, you will find 4 folders with sample apps, which were implemented using in-memory, SQLite, Room, and Realm databases, and then migrated to SQLDelight. All changes are organized in commits and can be seen on GitHub. The very first version of the app includes this in-memory implementation of book repository, which will be changing for each use case. In the bottom right corner, you can see the commit hash for each code snippet. I'll be sharing further. so you can follow the presentation and changes we are doing. Here we have 4 methods: get all for getting all books, add for adding the new book, update for updating the existing book, and delete for deleting the book. Classics ahead of time. So we start from SQLite, which comes by default with Android and can be found integrated pretty much everywhere. It has the finest control over the database, but the highest level of boilerplate code you need to write. Here, you can see a few methods from the re-implemented book repository and commit hash for the reference. For example, creation of the database is simple execution of SQL's create table statement with column names injected to have them easily used in Kotlin code later. Or another example of delete method, which simply uses the database wrapper. But what I like the most about SQLite is that the database is a single file, which can be found under data, your app package name, databases folder. You can use the device file explorer to get it from your device or emulator. Or basically, you can find it on device and send it in any messenger. You can easily replicate the database with SQLDelight if you know the schema of your database. To find it, let's browse the database file we've got in the previous step. We can do it in many different ways. For example, here you can see the screenshot of our database from SQLiteonline.com. Also with Android Studio 4.1, which is currently in Canary channel, you can inspect, query, and modify your app's databases using the new database inspector. Migration to SQLDelight is pretty straightforward in this case and can be done in 5 simple steps. First, you need to add a common Kotlin multi-platform module, integrate it into the main app module, then configure SQLDelight Gradle plugin. Write SQL statements to represent database schema and operations you want to have in Kotlin. And as the last step, migrate repositories. Let's go over each step in more details now. So, the step number 1. First of all, you need to add new Kotlin multi-platform common module with build Gradle file, which looks like this. There are many tutorials on how to create a common KMP module, so I won't give more details on this. On GitHub, you will see a slightly different version, which includes iOS and test targets, but they are optional at this stage. Now, to use that extracted common Kotlin multi-platform module, you need, first of all, change Kotlin Android plugin to Kotlin multi-platform. They won't work together because they have some conflicts, and you will have Gradle sync errors if you try to apply both of them. This new Kotlin block, which you can see on the left, is needed for the Kotlin multi-platform plugin to handle appropriate targets. To configure SQLDelight Gradle plugin, you first need to add its class path to your project's build Gradle. Then configure the plugin with the database name, package name, and source folder for the plugin to search for .sq files. Finally, you add the Android driver dependency to your app's build Gradle. So SQLDelight can communicate with Android database. Now, finally, you need to write some SQL statements to represent your database schema and operations, and place them in SQLDelight folder plus your package name, so plugin can find them. These are exactly the same operations we've seen before, so I won't go over each of them. And now hit the build button. Voila! We have the database and queries generated for us by SQLDelight, which we now can easily use in our book repository. If there is something wrong with your schema or operations, or SQLDelight can find all it needs, it just won't compile. So you won't have any errors in runtime. The second example is room. which is Android database object mapping library developed by Google to embrace the details of SQLite while introducing type safety and reducing boilerplate. Here you can see the book repository interfaces. So it works pretty much the same as SQLDelight. Migration shouldn't be difficult in this case, I guess. And room database schema can be easily exported to JSON files by under the hood. The migration process is exactly the same as for SQLite. Is Realm, which is positioned as an alternative to SQLite and ORM libraries. It's super simple to start using, but has a few non-obvious limitations for more advanced use cases. On the right, you can see the book repository powered by Realm. It's really straightforward. Realm database Studio. There is one main database file, which is called default Realm, and many optional ones which can be actually dropped. Unfortunately, there is no way to reuse the Realm database with SQLDelight. So we need to programmatically export all the data and on the screenshot, you can see simple migration for books, which wipes all the data once executed. Actually, you can implement some more intelligent checks to make sure that users' data not lost, but for demo purposes, I think it's quite okay. To summarize the talk, if you are using SQLite-based database management system or object relational mapping library, you are good, and migration to SQLDelight won't be a problem for you. Otherwise, there is no magic solution, and you will need to spend some time figuring out the best way to migrate your data to SQLDelight database. Finally, once migrated to SQLDelight, book repository can be easily reused on iOS. And the same applies for any other repository you implement in the common module. On the slide, you can see the screenshot of common framework I've compiled with single Gradle command, like link debug framework, I believe. And it can be just drag and dropped to Xcode projects and reused almost without any additional changes. And now a few useful links. To further investigate the migration to SQLDelight and Kotlin multi-platform. So the first link is Kotlin multi-platform mobile official page, which you can use to introduce the technology to your team. It has all the advantages listed and all challenges and maybe philosophy and so on. The second link is SQLDelight documentation, which has almost everything you need to start using it. Further, you have two links to databases. You can use the documentation to understand how then you have link to GitHub repository for sample application, which you can see one more time and like how it was implemented in real application. And the last link is for article of mine where I described full migration process of real-world application from room database to SQLDelight database. After that, we also used all that code with repositories and presenters in iOS applications. So I guess that's it. Thanks for attending this lightning talk. And now we can start with Q&A. If there are any questions, of course.
So I think we have no questions left for you.
Okay, yeah, so if you still have any questions after the talk, you can ping me directly in the chat